Hello, I'm Lanny Martin. I'm the Living Donor Coordinator here at UT Medical Center in Knoxville. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more in details about living donation. There's kind of two main categories of kidneys when it comes to donation. We have kidneys that come from deceased donors and kidneys that come from living donors. Of course, with a deceased donor, that's where donation is occurring at the end of someone's life, and that's typically when the kidney is then presented to the transplant list. A living donor kidney is someone who wants to donate their kidney and then lives a happy, healthy life afterwards. There are multiple benefits to the recipient with living donor kidneys when we compare them to deceased donor kidneys. There's obviously a decreased time of waiting on the transplant list. If you have a living donor out there that wants to donate a kidney to you, that could save you, 3 to 5 years of waiting on the transplant list in some situations. We see better long-term outcomes when we compare them to deceased donor kidneys. We see decreased incidence of graft failure and also decreased incidence of graft rejection in living donor kidneys when we compare them to deceased donor kidneys. Typically, the kidneys from a living donor are much healthier than a deceased donor kidney. A deceased donor kidney may have a history of hypertension or diabetes that can cause some damage to the kidney, but it could still be suitable for transplantation at the end of their life. Whereas if a living donor has diabetes or have a prolonged and severe case of hypertension, those donors typically get ruled out. And so basically what that means is the kidneys from a living donor typically have less damage and are much better quality. What we find with living donor kidneys is we have decreased incidences of delayed graft function. When a deceased donor kidney has 24 hours of time outside of the body, we might see delayed graft function, and that means that it could take a few days or a few weeks before that kidney can start working and filtering really well. So when it comes to living donor kidneys, we typically do not see delayed graft function. It is a scheduled surgery. The time the kidney spends outside the body is minimized, and so the kidney usually starts working right away. What that also translates to is possibly a quicker recovery time, and so possibly some less time in the hospital with a living donor surgery when we compare them to deceased donor surgeries. When it comes to donation, we do keep the two programs separated. We separate the living donor program and the recipient program. What that means is I can't share any information with you regarding who's being tested, the results of any testing, and where we're at in the testing process, which can be frustrating for a recipient. However, I do suggest that you have conversations with potential donors to see if they can have a voicemail system that is set up and can receive messages. It can be very frustrating for a recipient to hear from a potential donor that they tried contacting the transplant center and they haven't heard anything back. Whereas perhaps what has happened is we have returned the call, but if they don't have a voicemail system set up, then they would not necessarily know that we've tried to reach back out to them. And of course, when it comes to living donation, donors must take the first step and reach out to us. What that means is I can't get a list of names from you or people to contact on your behalf. I have to hear from each donor individually. And if they say that they have a brother or a sister or a friend that also is interested in donation, I can't accept that as a referral. I have to hear from them directly as well. When it comes to testing and evaluation, our transplant center pays for the cost of the donor testing. If the donor makes it to surgery, then the recipient's insurance pays for the cost of the donor surgery. When it comes to testing, we can test them here at our hospital, or we can test them locally wherever they live, whether that be another hospital in the area or another hospital or testing facility out of state. If it is an out-of-state donor, they can get worked up locally wherever they live, but the surgery would be here at UT Medical Center. So when it comes to costs, there are costs it takes to be a donor. One of those costs include transportation costs. So that could be gas money going to and from the testing facilities. And then if a donor has to hire a pet sitter or a babysitter or someone to watch over an elderly parent, those can be considered an expense for a donor. And then, of course, if a donor has to take any time off work, either on a test day or during the recovery period, that can certainly be an expense for a donor. Now, when it comes to compensation, it is illegal to offer anything of value in return for a kidney. What that means is you can't offer someone $20,000 or a vacation in return for a kidney. However, it is permissible and legal for a recipient to offer to pay for those costs that it takes to be a donor. those costs that we just discussed, like transportation, pet or babysitting costs, and lost wages. However, many recipients are unable to compensate donors for all those costs. So the good thing is we have access to a national patient assistance program called NILDAC, and NILDAC can help cover those expenses of up to $6,000 for those donors. In order for a donor to meet eligibility for this program, they actually look at the recipient's income level. And if the recipient makes less than 3.5 times the poverty level of their household income, then the donor can meet eligibility for requirements into this program. It is an optional application that the donor can choose to apply for, and then if they want to apply for it, we will provide the application to both the donor and the recipient. The application is private, we keep it confidential, and we do not share information between the donor and recipient regarding to whatever is on those applications. So when it comes to living donation, you could say that one of the goals of the recipient is to identify potential donors and to share my contact information with them. It is my job to see if they are compatible and to determine if they would be a good candidate for you, for the recipient. If you have a potential donor out there that is interested in giving you a kidney, I encourage you to have them reach out to me. My contact information is here on the slide. My phone number is area code 865-305-5340. My email address is almartin@utmck.edu, and donors can reach out to me in either method, whichever is more convenient for them. If you don't have any family or friends that's interested in donation, then we can also consider community outreach. If you are interested in reaching out to the community, you can put decals on the back of your car. You can put flyers up in public. You can put a sign in your yard, church bulletins. Some people even purchase billboards and put their picture on it stating that they're looking for donors. There's always the use of social media like Facebook and Twitter. If you do reach out to the community in these ways, I do encourage you to use your first and last name whenever you share your contact information. So that way when someone calls in, they can identify who they want the kidney to go to. An example that you could use on the back of a car decal or on a post somewhere would be something like, John Doe needs a kidney, call Lanny at 865-305-5340. If you have any questions about reaching out to the community, feel free to give me a call. Of course, I can't answer any specific questions regarding any potential donors, but I can give you advice on how to word some things and maybe some methods that you could use, and also helping identify any people in your family or friend circle that could be a champion for you. And if you remember, I'm unable to share, of course, specific details with potential donors, but I'd be more than happy to help answer any general questions that you may have.